You're in your 1-1 with your skip. They ask the question. So, I see your manager. We need to lock the track for next cycle. You give the answer they want. Manager probably, because you've been TLMing for 8 months and the headcount math only works if you commit. Or IC because you just shipped the migration and going back to status meetings feels like a demotion. Either way, you just made a decision that most orgs treat as one way. And that's the problem. Here's the claim I want to defend in the next 3 minutes. Permanent tracks produce worse leaders and worse staff engineers than the Pendulum model does. The number that matters is roughly 18 to 24 months, the cadence at which the best technical leaders I've worked with swing between the two roles. Not because they're indecisive, because the swing is the skill. The Pendulum model comes out of Charity Major's writing. She ran it at Honeycomb, and versions of it show up at Stripe, Shopify, and inside parts of Meta. The thesis is simple. Engineering management is a technical discipline. The half-life of your technical judgment as a full-time manager is somewhere around 2 years. After that, you're making architecture calls based on a codebase that no longer exists, and the inverse is just as bad. The staff engineer who's never managed tends to write technically beautiful RFCs that die in roadmap planning because they've never sat in the meeting where 4 directors fight over 6 headcount. They optimize for the system they can see. The org is also a system. They can't see it. Here's what the Pendulum actually buys you. When you swing back to IC after a management tour, you carry org context into technical decisions. You stop proposing service splits that require hiring 2 teams that don't exist. You write RFCs that account for who's going to be on call for this thing in 18 months. That's staff-level scope. And it's nearly impossible to develop without having owned headcount. Swing the other direction. When you go from staff IC into EM, you bring calibration. You can tell when an engineer is sandbagging an estimate. You can read a design doc and know whether the author actually understands the failure modes or is performing rigor. Google's perf calibration meetings are brutal, partly because the managers in the room have wildly uneven technical depth. The Pendulum fixes that. Now the objection. My org doesn't support this. Going IC after manager looks like a demotion. Recruiters will ask why. Fair. 2 things. First, the orgs that punish the swing are telling you something about how they think about technical leadership. They think management is a promotion, which means they're probably also the orgs where staff engineers report to EMs who can't review their work. Note that and price it in. Second, you can do a soft pendulum even inside rigid orgs. TLM rotations. Taking on a 90-day project as tech lead while staying IC, volunteering to run the hiring loop for a quarter. The swing doesn't have to be a title change. It has to be a context change. The engineers I'd want running a 40-person org, they all have the same shape. 2 or 3 swings on the Pendulum. They've written the RFC and they've cut the head count. They know what each role costs because they've paid both prices. Next video, I'm breaking down what a 90-day TLM rotation should actually look like. The scope, the calibration check-ins, the exit criteria. If your org has a version of this that works, drop the structure in the comments. I want to see the rubrics.